This is the latest house to be built after the Wienerberger house at the BRE. It's on site now. And what we want to do is show how it's possible, and indeed sensible, to build a house that doesn't have any net energy bills over a year. So that sort of takes the argument about the code and its devaluation away, because actually the most logical thing to do is meet what the customer wants and build a house that can really be highly replicable and used pretty well anywhere. And based on our experience over the years, we did the first terrace of Code 6 housing association homes in Northampton for the Metropolitan Housing Trust years and years ago, and some of the people in the room helped do that. And we basically have been trying to keep going with those principles, and we've reached a point where, by just trying to do the same thing for years and years and years, we've reached a point where the cost had come down to the point where it seemed absolutely irrelevant not to continue, really not to produce zero carbon homes. But more importantly, don't worry, don't even talk about zero carbon, just provide homes that don't actually have any net energy bills. And you can do this because this is the demand, and this is the green is the electricity generated by BIPV, integrated within the master planning and the house design. And net overall, even with a knackered feed-in tariff, which is what they're currently proposing to do, you can have a net annual zero energy bill. Furthermore, what's exciting is the cost of electrical storage is coming down very, very, very fast. And if you put a little bit of battery storage in, which often pretty well is cost competitive with grid connecting to the utility, because they always charge you lots of money because their electric grid is knackered and can't take large amounts of renewable energy. So by the time you've paid the upgrade on your electric connection grid, if you can limit your export to 3 kilowatt, which is really very, very little indeed, then and put in a battery store, you then find that the whole thing works commercially very well. You save money on your capital cost, and you actually have to import very little electricity indeed over a year. So we've reached a point now where we're producing about 8 megawatt hours a year, and an all-electric home is consuming about 4. And it does that because instead of bolting panels on the outside of houses, and they're just an additional cost, we actually make 2/3 of the room face south, and they become building integrated photovoltaic roofing systems. So you don't actually have to buy a roof, and you get this wonderful thing called a solar loft, which is a sort of lifestyle thing. And then we work with our supply chain and BIM, and we rethink what you could buy in a builder's merchant. So if you walk into your local branch, you probably won't find many of these things. And if you really get consistent and find out what things actually cost and pre-negotiate volume discounts of good bits and pieces, not the bits that the existing manufacturers are trying to sell you, then you will find a very cost-effective balance or suite of products that fit together really well. So here's our roofing system. So we said, well, we're not going to buy any more of these photovoltaic panels. We're actually going to rethink what is the detailing around the edge of a photovoltaic panel. It's a bit of aluminium. The panels are made out of very durable, toughened glass. Let's make them translucent so they look nice from below, not a sea of white plastic. That means you can expose them if you want to do these sheltered internal conservatories. But also they're very quick to fit, so you can fit one of these roofs in a day. But most importantly, it generates 8 megawatt hours a year. And then really try very hard with traditional materials. So the south-facing elements of the roof surfaces are clad in these BIPV with insulation under where you want to use the space underneath, room in the roof. And the north is clad in more traditional materials. And then we found that actually timber framing was really bad value for money. Had a whole series of appalling tender returns on reasonably large projects. And we found that actually the best thing to do was probably to rethink how a timber frame was. So we've done on-site, going back to stick construction, but we put it into a laser-cut, galvanized steel, powder-coated framing system. And I'm not joking, if you can build an IKEA sofa, you can probably build one of our houses. So if you then match that up to the latest short bore GGBS cement replacement mini piles, this is Bullivants in action, insulating blocks up to ground level, insulated floor and screed. You can build, we had two architects, and architects are not known for their practicality, managed to build a quarter of a house in 4 hours. So if you look very carefully at your construction sequence and you really work hard at integrating all these components in a simple way, in other words, not starting with, I've got a factory, I've got to make sure I know, I've got to use all the techniques and production facilities that I've already invested in. We start with a blank sheet of paper. We could have done anything we want. We can work with any suppliers we want. We can work with any companies we want. So no preconceptions. And that's probably best given this point in time. So that's cross-section through the house. Integrating the M&E and services and ductwork is a joy because it's all the routes and the duct paths are built in. And then there's considerable design flexibility because you get a lintel at each floor level and you can place your windows and doors and openings pretty well wherever you want, providing you've got enough lateral stability to meet wind loads. So with this system, and it has very strong, we call them red lines, not blue lines. Our air tightness line is the OSB board. And that follows through in the roofing sections. We can basically produce very airtight homes and very, very fast homes. And we're going to build a house in about six weeks at the BRE. We've just started now on site. So that's what it looks like. We're bemused, frankly. We've seen new houses built at the BRE. They don't seem to face south. When they do have photovoltaics, they face east and west. We don't understand what's going on. And it's obviously fabric first is driving everyone's mind. They've given up with the idea that actually we might have an electric supply problem. It might be a very good idea if a typical British home built today at densities of, say, up to 50 homes per hectare, which is 70% of the UK housing market, actually generated more electricity than it used. But more than that, it can actually offset the carbon footprint of the family that lives in it, particularly if they run electric vehicles. And actually, over the lifetime of this home, you can offset a lot of the transport carbon that you use for getting to work and so on and so forth. So overall, your whole lifestyle can become climate neutral. So that's starting to make a really big difference. That's a big cultural change. Then if we think about how the urban design needs to change and how we lay out streets, different house typologies, different front and rear accesses. This is a ground floor of the BRE house with a garage, which then turns into a granny flat, so you put your grandma in the garage. And we've been asked to do that by nearly, on every single housing estate we do. Someone says, can I put my grandma in the garage? And that's the example of how to do a lifetime home on the sly. So very simple floor plans, simple boxes, all running with most of the ideas or many of the ideas that have been discussed at this meeting today. Now, where we're going now, though, is that because it's been designed to be home quality mark, Code 6 compliant right from the start, it's no big deal. We can show how we can create local employments. Our laser cut steel frames are made in Cardiff. We're using UK OSB. We're using UK timber for the C16 sections, and we're hoping to get C24 coming out of Wales soon. And it's starting to create quite a lot of employment, where previously people were bringing in things from Germany or using this or that. It's very, very important that we can show local production, local manufacture, and set up new local skills. And here we are. This is where we are. It's got a little bit further, but we'll be up with the frame towards the end of next week, we hope, depending on the rain. And so now I just want to show how you put together these kit of parts. We can design a housing development. We can give you a price, unlike volume house builders. We can tell you how much it costs to do a development very, very fast. And we can also do proper urban layouts with house types that actually respond to orientation, again, unlike volume house builders. because actually we care about how it looks, what the streetscape is, and we care about the overall price. And what's good about this is that when you put it all together, you can give a landowner a development appraisal, they can see exactly how much money they're going to make, and there's complete transparency running all the way through the supply chain. This is our latest product, where we have the photovoltaic BIPV roof used as a canopy for community solar generation, mainly over car parks. And we're putting little one-bedroom, two-person pods hung over the car park. We only lose 2 spaces out of 40, and that's our solution to the affordable housing problem. Each one of these homes costs about £25,000, and they're super insulated to Code 6 standards. So this is a new way of building. It produces different products, different ways, different typologies. It can do high-end, and we've got projects going forward like this in Essex. And then we lay out whole villages, literally very, very fast. We can work with communities to design their own streets. You can choose house types. We're basically going forward for the custom build agenda, where local empowerment, a bit more democracy, working with planners, but also with the actual customers who are going to live in these homes. And this produces this kind of product, which we argue is better than what you get if you phone up a volume house builder. So using these new ideas, new delivery methods, new ways of creating employment, and also starting to apply the supply chain to commercial buildings. This is a project we're doing in Holland at the moment, where we're taking existing buildings. This is projects we're doing in other countries, where we're doing much larger scale systems, but using the same kinds of components. And you start to get very radical new ways of delivering urban form. So think outside the box, listen to all the things that, all the wisdom that's been included in the home quality mark, in the code for sustainable homes. Don't listen to a thing the government says. Don't worry about any policies, because actually they make it up as they go along. And what you do know is that the world's getting hotter. We're fighting over fossil fuels, and anyway, there's a better way of behaving. Let's get on with it.